So here's the laser cutter. We store the USB cable for the laser cutter inside the laser cutter so it doesn't get lost. If you use the laser cutter, please remember to return it when you're done. The USB cord plugs in on the right-hand side of the laser cutter in the front. You'll find an access port on the side, and the cable plugs in down towards the bottom of the access port when you put it in the correct way. Great. So now that you have that plugged in to the laser cutter, you want to go ahead and plug it in to your computer. With the laser cutter turned off, we will talk about the inside of the cutting area. You'll notice that there's a honeycomb shaped object inside the laser cutter. This is the cutting platform. When you put in your material to cut, you want to make sure that the material is on the honeycomb, never above the honeycomb. And you should always try to get it to sit flat. This material here is not sitting flat, it's kind of concave. So you'll notice that the edge, the material is along the edge of the frame, but sits only on the honeycomb. And we do that for the back as well. You'll notice that in the back here, the frame is here. So we push the material into the upper left-hand corner. We also want to make sure that the honeycomb is pushed up into the left because it is removable. It is not secured down by anything. And sometimes people will move it forward or right. Make sure it's in the upper left-hand corner. That way you will always have precise measurements. When you are done, you want to close the lid. You should never operate the laser cutter with the lid open. When you go to cut something for the first time, you should bring multiple pieces of material. This is so that you can test the laser settings, because depending on the width of the material and the type of the material, the settings will change, and you need to figure out what they are for the material you use. There's a list of materials that you can use in the laser cutter on the THS website, and I will link that inside the comments below. So now we have a master switch down here at the bottom. If you turn that on, the pump turns on in the back. It is very loud and very noisy. Next thing you want to do is turn on the laser cutter. You can turn on the light for the laser cutter so you can actually see inside better. And this is the test laser. It will not cut the material. There's this button here. If you want to see where the laser is positioned, currently that red dot, I'll show off this light. That red dot is the current position of the laser. Over here at the computer, we'll go ahead and open up LaserWeb. Settings. This is generic smoothie machine. That's fine. You can create a new profile, but it doesn't always remain the way you want it to. LaserWeb's kind of weird, and I'll kind of explain that now. So what we want to do is our machine is 300 by 240. We're going to go ahead and set this to 0. And set this to 0 as well. Now, here's where it gets weird. What we're going to do right now is we are going to set the 0, 0 of the laser cutter. So we will go to control, up to comms, and we'll choose the correct COM port. For me it is USB modem at 15.5.200, sorry, 11.5.200. We will connect. And down here in the corner it will say that it's connected. So now we go to the controls. Now currently we have the laser kind of midway into the left. You want it all the way to the left, and you want it to be at the lower left-hand corner of the material. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set jogging to be 100. And we're going to jog it down. And you'll see that it's way beyond where we want. So we're going to go ahead and select 10. We're going to jog it up, jog it up, jog it up, jog it up. It's just a little bit off, so we're going to go ahead and change that to a 1. And go ahead and jog it up until we get it on the material. Now we're going to do the same thing until it goes all the way left. That is our 0, 0 mark. So now we go ahead and we will mark it as 0, 0. Now we can go ahead and set our cut procedure. So you'll notice that it's set an alarm in the software. And we don't want an alarm, so we will clear the alarm. The alarm is set because we have hit the X-axis switch, or the X stopper switch. So we have our laser at roughly 0, 0. We don't want it at absolute 0 all the way to the left, because what will happen is LaserWeb will throw alarms, and when there's an alarm it won't actually cut. So 0, 0 is definitely not where you want 0, 0 to be. You set 0, 0 to be about 10, 10. So you'll basically set it to the corner of your material, and then move it up 10, and move it left 10. And then over inside the configuration or in the control section, you will set it to be 0, 0. So that way, when you start cutting, it'll be all set. Now, this white area is your workspace, and our workspace is 300 by 240. So what we want to do is you always want to make sure that your workspace encompasses this starting at 0 in the lower left corner and going to 300 and up to 240. Sometimes it'll actually move weirdly, and what you need to do is go to your machine, and like I have here, I've set this to -1, which is the 0 line. See if I go ahead and set this to 0. It's not perfectly at 0, it's kind of over the edge a little bit. So we'll go ahead and set this to -1. And same thing, if I were to set the bottom Y to 0, it's not. It shows it being 150. So we want this here at -154. You may have to experiment. Actually, it looks like I want it at -155. Correct, that's right. So you need to experiment to make sure that it works where you need it to work. Once you have that set, basically you go up to Files, you'll add a document. I'm going to use this THS logo. And then from the THS logo, we're going to go ahead and, what are we going to do here? We're going to go ahead and drag it, because you can't do anything right now. Drag it from there down to here, and that makes it an actual object. You'll notice we're going to do a laser cut, and we want to set the stroke to be black. We want the cut rate to be actually kind of high, like you want it to be like 600 millimeters per minute. You want to experiment with this because I've not perfected it. We're gonna now there are two ways to set the laser power. In LaserWeb, we've got this 100%, and on the laser cutter, we have this knob, which is currently at 100%. Modifying the laser power from here, I've tried 20% and it tends to burn my material a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and set it to 10%. So 10% is cool, and we're going to go ahead and go over here. We don't actually want it to be quite so big. We're going to set this to 75 or 83. That's good enough. And we're going to go ahead and move it from 32 to 15. We're also going to set this to 15. And once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and generate our G code, because all of this is required in the G code. So we generate it. And go to controls. And we are going to go ahead